I tried to get away from it, but it felt like no matter where I went, it would follow me. I decided to venture deep into the woods on a cold, gloomy morning, hoping to find solace and peace. There I was, trudging through the leafy forest floor, surrounded only by towering trees. I was all alone, or at least, I thought I was. I could not escape it. Just as I let my guard down, there it was, taunting me. I felt like I was in a state of perpetual agony, in a grim, inescapable purgatory. It echoed through the trees, following me like a hellish fiend. Oh my God. There it is again. Leave me alone! You monster, leave me alone! Yo, what's going on, guys? It's J-Mass, and I'm back again with another dope New England adventure. Let's talk about Friendly's. Without a doubt, Friendly's is one of the most iconic restaurant chains here in New England, and like many New Englanders, I have very fond memories going there as a kid. In fact, Friendly's was one of my favorite childhood restaurants. But sadly, it seems like Friendly's locations are much more difficult to find than they were when I was a kid. Let me give you a very brief history lesson about Friendly's. In 1935, brothers Prestley and Curtis Blake founded an ice cream shop, then known as Friendly, in the city of Springfield, Massachusetts. A second shop would open up in 1940 in the nearby city of West Springfield. From there, the franchise would begin growing rapidly, operating over 500 restaurants by the mid-1970s. After the Blake brothers officially sold Friendly's in 1979, the chain switched hands between several parent companies over the following decades. A revolving door of CEOs consistently replacing each other also became a reality for the chain. Unfortunately, by the 21st century, the company's future began looking grim. Friendly's would file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy 3 total times, once in 2011, once in 2019, specifically for its grocery division, and once in 2020. Between these financial crises, Friendly's was forced to shut down numerous restaurants, and as of 2024, only 103 restaurants remain, with the majority located here in Massachusetts. Due to all of these problems, the future of Friendly's is quite uncertain, and it has been in a state of slow, stagnant decline over the last few years. In this video, we're going to be visiting every single Friendly's restaurant location here in the great state of Massachusetts, the state where it all began. And in total, there are 24 Friendly's locations scattered across the entire state of Massachusetts. In fact, you can see all 24 of these Friendly's locations listed on this piece of paper. And we're going to be visiting all 24 of these Friendly's locations throughout the entire state of Massachusetts in the time frame of just one weekend. Now, this is by far one of the craziest challenges I've ever done on this channel, and I'm pretty excited to see if we can do it. Alright, let's go over the rules of this challenge. I only have one weekend, that means 2 days, to visit all 24 Friendly's locations in Massachusetts. I can only begin traveling at 11 o'clock a.m. when Friendly's first opens, and I must stop before sunset, which, thanks to daylight savings, occurs shortly after 4 o'clock p.m. Now, originally I had the ridiculous idea of getting food at every single restaurant I visited, but that just seemed unfeasible, financially irresponsible, and unhealthy. Thus, I'll only be ordering food at a few stores and really only when I'm feeling it. In fact, to make things go by quicker and prioritize my travel between locations, I decided to only order food to go online and pick it up in store. I never thought I would do this, but to make things easier for myself, I downloaded the Friendly's app on my iPhone, just to make online ordering more efficient for myself. So as you can see on this map I've created, we have 24 total locations scattered throughout the state, all in different regions. To make travel much more efficient for myself, I've organized my trip based on geography and travel time between locations. First, I'll be starting down in the South Coast region of Massachusetts, then working my way up to the South Shore. After that, I'll make a quick trip up to Essex County, and then work my way out west towards Worcester County. I'll start heading south before rerouting back west towards the Springfield metro area, where most of the locations are. From there, I'll head up the Connecticut River Valley before making one final run west into the Berkshires to reach our last location in Pittsfield. My hope is to hit 12 spots each day, but we'll see how that goes. Well, it's almost 11 a.m., so without further ado, I'm going to start heading over to the very first Friendly's location on our list, located in the city of Attleboro, Massachusetts. I'll meet you guys over there. Well, guys, it's officially 11 o'clock a.m., and I have arrived at our very first Friendly's location. The first Friendly's restaurant I visited in Attleboro had a modern look and feel, although I did quite like the color scheme and design. Unfortunately, it was quite rainy, and standing outside of a Friendly's in the pouring rain would become a common theme of day one. One down, 23 more to go. As I drove through the pouring rain, I decided to order food from the next Friendly's location. I didn't want to do it at the previous one since they had just opened. 30 minutes later, I arrived in Swansea at Friendly's location number 2. This building had the classic brick design I'm more used to seeing in the chain. I went inside to pick up my meal, which I had ordered on the app roughly 15 minutes prior. I will say it was very quick and easy. Alright guys, so I got my very first Friendly's meal of the trip. I assume this is going to be one of many Friendly's meals of the trip, so as a result I got a pretty small one. More specifically, I did get a kids meal. You can see the kids cup right here, and inside we got the Blue Raz drink. Now I haven't had the Blue Raz since I was a kid myself, so it's been many years. I'm kind of hyped to try that. But yeah, let's check it out. Let's do an unboxing of this Friendly's bag and see what we got going on. As I did mention, every meal I'm going to be getting is going to be takeout or to go, just for the sake of time. And here it is. 2 cheeseburger sliders and some French fries. Our very first Friendly's meal of the trip. Pretty hyped to try that out. Again, it's been many years since I've had Friendly's, so I'm excited to see how that compares to when I was a kid. Got the cheeseburgers, fries, and a Blue Raz drink. Let's get started. I left Swansea and began driving over the Braga Bridge, making my way into Fall River. I tried eating the cheeseburger sliders while driving, but they were admittedly quite dry and mid. Eventually, I arrived at the Fall River location, which was also sporting the classic look and feel I like from a Friendly's restaurant. This was definitely the busiest restaurant I'd been to thus far, with many more customers. The rain just kept on coming down, not letting up at any point during my first few stops. Nevertheless, I arrived at my 4th Friendly's location, located roughly 15 minutes away in Dartmouth. This was honestly one of the worst looking restaurants I visited during my trip. It had a very lame, uninspired cubic design and came off as bland and forgettable. I'd rank it as the 2nd worst looking Friendly's out of all 24. As the afternoon progressed, I started driving north towards my next stop, and all this thinking about Friendly's had me craving ice cream. I decided to order a Fribble on the app 15 minutes before arriving. Eventually, I arrived at the Middleborough location, sitting right along a rotary. This building was almost like a fusion of classic and modern, but I kind of liked it. I went inside, picked up my milkshake, and then walked back to my car almost immediately afterwards. Alright guys, so I'm currently at the Middleborough Friendly's location right now, and I got a Fribble, which is basically Friendly's version of a milkshake. You can see they call it the Friendly's Thick Shake, which, very interesting name right there. But yeah, this is the Fribble, way bigger than I expected though. It's actually a pretty big drink. I actually got a mint chocolate chip milkshake, so it looks pretty good. Again, I haven't had a Fribble in many years, so I'm pretty excited to try it out, but just wanted to show you guys, this is the 2nd food item I got on our Friendly's trip, mint chocolate chip Fribble. As I drank my admittedly delicious mint chocolate chip Fribble, I made my way east towards the historic city of Plymouth, coincidentally just in time for Thanksgiving, coming up in only a few days. I arrived at the Plymouth Friendly's, sporting a classic brick design with a strange tower in the front of it. The design on this one was odd, but I liked it, as I prefer the classic look much more. As I made the 20-minute drive to the next location, the tedium and monotony of the challenge was beginning to dawn on me. I drive, arrive, get out, take videos, rinse and repeat, only going inside occasionally. Nevertheless, I persisted. I arrived at the Pembroke location, which was honestly one of the nicest Friendly's restaurants I visited on the trip. It had the iconic classic design with the red-topped cupola that I love. Reinvigorated to hit as many locations as I could today, I began driving up northwest towards Weymouth, determined to get at least 2 or 3 more spots before nightfall. I arrived at the Weymouth Friendly's in the midst of an intense traffic jam right next door. Another classic brick Friendly's, this one was also quite busy with many customers heading in and out. As always, I loved the look and feel. I was beginning to feel hungry again, so as I made the 30-minute trek to the next spot, I ordered another meal online. This time, I opted for the chicken quesadilla, something I'd never tried from Friendly's before. I eventually arrived at the Norwood location, pulling up to another classic building with the iconic red and white color scheme. I went inside to grab my food, but this location was admittedly a lot more quiet and dead than the last. Alright guys, so we are now at the Norwood Friendly's location, and once again I ordered another meal to go. This time I got a chicken quesadilla, so let's check that out. I am honestly pretty hungry. It's been a while since the last meal I got. Let's see what we're working with here. Not too bad, yeah. This is the chicken quesadilla from Friendly's here at the Norwood location. Again, I am pretty hungry, so I'm pretty hyped to try this, and I don't think I've ever had a quesadilla from Friendly's before, so yeah, let's try that out. We're going to be heading to the next location, and I think by that point it's going to get dark, so this might actually be our second to last location of the day. But yeah, so far so good. The drive to my next location would be the longest distance between any 2 locations I visited on day 1, at just under an hour of driving. Unfortunately, I hit very rough traffic at one point with a serious accident on the other side of the highway. As I rolled up on the Peabody location, nightfall was quickly descending upon me, and I had just barely made it to the restaurant with minutes to spare. This Friendly's was absolutely packed, with many customers here, likely looking for dinner as night came. So guys, I think that's about it for day number 1 of my 2-day challenge to visit all 24 Friendly's locations throughout the state of Massachusetts. I think I'm going to end it here at location number 10 in the city of Peabody, Massachusetts. It's getting pretty dark out right now, and I don't really want to film in the dark anymore, so I'll do the rest tomorrow. But yeah, we explored and visited 10 Friendly's locations today, all of them throughout eastern Massachusetts. We got 14 to do tomorrow. Most of those will be out in western Massachusetts. And even though there was a lot of driving today, there's going to be even more driving tomorrow, so I'm like mentally preparing for it. But yeah, guys, we explored and visited 10 Friendly's locations today, 10 out of 24. Pretty crazy. We started in Attleboro, ended here in Peabody, and I gotta say, that was quite the journey, but I'm pretty hyped to see what tomorrow holds. We got 14 Friendly's locations left. Again, most of those will be out in western Massachusetts, although I do believe I have one more left here in eastern Mass that I wasn't able to fit in today. I actually ended up visiting not as many today as I expected, but yeah, tomorrow we're just gonna get right into it and we're gonna grind. I'm pretty hyped for that, but let's say goodbye to our very last Friendly's location of day number 1 here in Peabody, Massachusetts. Day number 1 here in Peabody, Massachusetts, 10 Friendly's, officially complete, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Guys, I'm gonna be breaking one of the rules of my challenge. Yep. Look, starting at 11 o'clock a.m. is horribly inefficient. Now, I know that's when Friendly's opens. They open at 11 o'clock a.m. That's why I did that originally yesterday. but it's so inefficient, dude. There's no way I'm going to be hitting all 14 locations if I start at 11 and end at 4 p.m., which was my original ruling. So I'm going to be breaking my rules of the challenge and starting significantly earlier so that I know for a fact I can hit all 14 spots today before nighttime. So as a result, it's almost 8 a.m. right now. I'm going to be starting at 8 a.m. and I'm going to go until 4 p.m. So that gives us way more time to hit all 14 Friendly's locations that we have today. So I'm sorry for the purists out there who are watching, who are excited to see me start at 11 a.m. There's just no way that's going to happen. I don't even know what I was thinking, dude. So I'm starting at 8 a.m. at the very first stop today, here in the city of Haverhill, Massachusetts. Now let's get started. For the very first Friendly's restaurant of day 2, I visited the Haverhill location, which was still closed and empty. I had originally wanted to hit the Haverhill spot yesterday, but sadly did not have enough time. Still, I was greeted by the classic Friendly's design and reminded of what was to come for today's time-consuming and tedious journey. 11 down, 13 more to go. After a long 50-minute drive to the next location, I arrived in the city of Gardner and decided to make my annual pilgrimage to the iconic bicentennial chair for worship and reflection. Afterwards, I arrived at the Friendly's location in Gardner, greeted by another classic brick building. Interestingly, this Friendly's location was actually open, with customers inside eating breakfast. My next trip was much quicker at only 12 minutes. Luckily, the weather was much better today than it was yesterday, other than the extreme wind I endured most of the time. Unfortunately, my good feelings were dashed as I arrived at the Friendly's in Leominster, which was another lame, bland location. A short, flat, and cubic building, this Friendly's was a letdown after a string of back-to-back great ones, sitting empty and neglected. I began making my way down south, driving towards the next location in Marlborough, blinded by the piercing solar glare. This Friendly's location in Marlborough was another interesting one. One of the more modern-looking spots, it boasted a very large drive-through sign out front, which I hadn't seen at any other locations I visited thus far. Despite the modern look, I liked it. With a 25-minute drive ahead of me, I began making my way southwest towards the next location, still feeling invigorated about today's journey, with several more hours of daylight ahead of me. I arrived at the Auburn location, which was another classic brick Friendly's, a stark contrast from the previous. It was still morning as I visited, so the Auburn Friendly's was also closed and empty. Now this was the one I was genuinely the most interested in visiting. As I drove 40 minutes west along the Massachusetts Turnpike, I eventually arrived at the Springfield Friendly's location. Considering that Springfield is the city where Friendly's was founded back in 1935, I expected great things. Luckily, I was met with another classic-looking restaurant, probably my #1 favorite of the bunch. The color scheme was especially good, and it was also an extremely busy spot, even for being around 11 a.m. Feeling hungry after many hours of driving and visiting numerous Friendly's locations without eating anything, I decided to order food on the app from the next stop. Eventually, I arrived at the East Longmeadow Friendly's restaurant, which sported another classic red and white design, albeit not as busy as the previous. I went inside to grab my meal, which I was admittedly quite interested in trying. Alright guys, so I just got back from the East Longmeadow Friendly's location, and I got our very first meal of day number 2 of the trip. Ordered this online to go here at East Longmeadow, and I'm pretty excited to see it. I got the honey barbecue chicken super melt. You can see it came with fries right here. I'm trying to open this one-handed. Got fries going on right here, looking pretty good. Put that right there. And then we also have the super melt itself. Let's check this out, see how it's looking. Oh, that looks pretty good. Look at that. So yeah, this is the honey barbecue chicken super melt. I'm honestly really hungry right now, so I'm pretty hyped to try this out. I don't think I've ever had a super melt from Friendly's, but did just want to show you guys this is the first meal of the day today, of day number 2. All right, let's move on to the next one. As I ate my honey barbecue chicken super melt while stopped in traffic, I was surprised to find myself enjoying it. It was nothing standout, but still, it was pretty good and especially quite filling, if a little messy from all that sauce. Unfortunately, my positivity was decimated as I arrived at the Agawam Friendly's location, without a doubt the worst Friendly's I had visited on this trip. This Friendly's was situated within a strip mall. It was bland, boring, and lacked no character or identity as a result. Parking was also quite annoying, as most people who were parked there were shopping at other nearby stores. Shame on you, Agawam Friendly's. Sadly, I forgot to film myself driving to this spot, probably because I was so disappointed from the previous one, but I eventually arrived at the location in Westfield. This was one of the most interesting locations, as it is officially called Friendly's Cafe, the only one of its kind, and is mostly red and modern. It seemed like some sort of marketing test to try out a different restaurant look, but it was definitely drawing in customers. I got back in my car to make the 20-minute drive back east, feeling reinvigorated as I was now on the final stretch of the challenge. I eventually arrived at the Friendly's in Chicopee, which was proudly sporting another drive-through sign. Unlike the previous ones, the drive-through at this location was packed, drawing more customers than even the inside dining. I'm actually kind of kicking myself now for not trying a Friendly's drive-through, but oh well, the app was my best friend for this trip. Heading northwest as I crossed the Connecticut River yet again, I felt myself getting excited as I was getting closer to the finale. I descended upon the Holyoke Friendly's location, which was another classic Friendly's building, from the iconic color scheme to the towering cupola. What else can I say, really? Unfortunately, this Friendly's was dead, with only one other customer here. With another 20-minute drive ahead of me, I was yet again craving ice cream, and decided to order my second fribble of the trip, shortly before arriving at my next destination. I arrived at the Friendly's stop in Hadley, which was weirdly quite long. Sadly, this one too was also dead, and as I headed inside to grab my milkshake, I only saw a single other couple sitting inside at a table. Alright guys, so I just left the Hadley Friendly's location. I picked up yet another fribble. You might remember I got a fribble yesterday. Well, this is my second fribble, aka a milkshake. Very different packaging on this one though. It's a lot more minimalistic, which I honestly prefer this packaging. Looks a lot more classic. This time I ended up getting a Hunka Chunka PB Fudge fribble, which I remember when I was a kid, the Hunka Chunka PB Fudge was my favorite ice cream. It's been a while since I've had that, but yeah, just wanted to show you this is my latest pickup from Friendly's, the Hunka Chunka PB Fudge fribble here in Hadley. I believe we only have 2 more stops left, so we're getting to the end of our trip. 2 more Friendly's locations, and then that's officially it. While I drank my Hunka Chunka PB Fudge fribble, I began the tedious task of driving directly back west the way I came, crossing the Connecticut River yet again as I headed back into Northampton. Eventually, I arrived at the Northampton Friendly's location, showing off that iconic brick architecture that you guys already know I love by now. At this point, night was beginning to fall, and I knew I had to leave fast in order to hit my very last Friendly's location. Just one more to go. At almost 50 minutes away, I made the long trek through the mountainous Berkshires, excitedly racing towards my final stop. Eventually, I made it, just as the sun was setting. I had arrived at the Friendly's restaurant in Pittsfield, the last Friendly's on my list, and the last Friendly's in Massachusetts. 24 out of 24 Friendly's hit in just 2 days. Let's go! Hell yeah! Woo! Oh yeah, the building was cool too. You know the drill by now.
Wow,
That's all I gotta say is just wow. I cannot believe it. We've officially been to all 24 Friendly's locations throughout the entire state of Massachusetts over the course of just 2 days. 24 total locations. We went to 10 yesterday, we went to 14 today. 24 Friendly's locations scattered across the entire state of Massachusetts in several different regions. It took a lot of traveling, a lot of driving, there was a lot of food involved, but it was a crazy trip, a crazy journey, and I'm glad I got to bring you guys along with me. We've officially arrived at the 24th Friendly's location on our list here in the city of Pittsfield, Massachusetts. This was an absolutely wild challenge, and I can't believe we did it. It was a lot of fun. I had a great time making this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. This was a really wild challenge, but I'm glad you guys got to check in with me on this one. But yeah, we've officially been to every single Friendly's location in Massachusetts. Who else can say that, you know? In a minute, I'll show you all the logistics of the trip. We can see what we were working with this whole time, but why don't we say goodbye to the very last Friendly's location here in Pittsfield? Let's say goodbye right now. Friendly's location 24 here in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Right there. Wild stuff. I'll see you guys later. Woo! So, now that I've officially been to all 24 Friendly's locations throughout the state of Massachusetts, what are my final thoughts and conclusions? Well, in regards to the food, I think overall it's pretty mid. It's not amazing, it's not horrible, it's just mediocre and passable at best. And I do think that's partially to blame for Friendly's overall decline over the last few years. The food just isn't standout, and everything I had was like mediocre to passable. Again, nothing major. Definitely the best thing I had was that honey barbecue chicken super melt. It was good. I just don't know if I would go out of my way for it. I think Friendly's really excels at their ice cream. You know, their ice cream is definitely their best asset, but again, all of the food options they have just don't do enough to stand out and draw people over there. The other thing that I noticed are that the many Friendly's locations varied vastly in terms of quality and activity. You know, some of the locations were completely packed and busy, lots of people there, lots of customers, whereas others were completely empty. I maybe saw one other customer in total. So they really do vary in terms of activity. I think the location and accessibility play a major role in terms of the restaurant's overall health and activity. The other thing I've noticed too are that the overall looks and aesthetics of these buildings vary tremendously. You know, some of them had the classic Friendly's look that you expect out of the Friendly's franchise, while others had a lot more of a modern look and feel. In my personal opinion, I do think the worst looking Friendly's that I visited on this trip was the one in Agawam, Massachusetts. It was just a really bland looking Friendly's location, literally in a strip mall. I actually think it was the only strip mall location I saw on the trip. I personally prefer the classic look, you know, like the one you see in Springfield, Massachusetts, where it all started. I think that was a really great classic looking Friendly's location. Now, I will give Friendly's props for their app. You know, I haven't used too many food apps over the years, but of the food apps I have used, the Friendly's app was genuinely in the upper echelon of food apps. It was not buggy at all. It was extremely easy and efficient to use. And you know, I did a lot of online ordering throughout this trip from Friendly's, and I gotta say, I had no problems using their app whatsoever. Very easy and efficient. If you find yourself becoming a regular customer of Friendly's, I honestly would recommend downloading their app. I thought it was pretty good. Definitely one of the best food ordering apps I've ever used. Hey, thank you guys for joining me. I've been J-Mass as always, and this has been another dope New England adventure. So some of you may be asking after all this, J-Mass, why did you decide to waste your entire weekend visiting 24 Friendly's locations in Massachusetts and not even go inside like 3/4 of them? Well, it's because I'm insane, that's why. I felt like doing a ridiculous, almost absurd challenge, and while it was tedious at times, I had fun, and that's what matters most. Also, despite my criticisms, Friendly's is a very nostalgic chain for myself and many other New Englanders, and it will always hold a special place in my heart as a pivotal eatery during my childhood. In fact, my hometown of Chelmsford used to have a Friendly's that I ate at frequently, although it closed down a few years ago. As always, guys, if you love urban exploration, checking out abandoned sites, traveling New England and beyond, and ridiculous challenges like this one, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. Shout out to all of my channel members as well. You guys are amazing, and I appreciate you directly supporting me and the channel. I'd love to see you too become a member as well. Or you can follow me on Instagram at JMassOfficial. That's at JMassOfficial. But yeah, I've been JMass as always, and I have one final thing to say.